So we're starting to explore the first set of concepts, principles here. That's the top line on holism. So we'll be talking about holism itself. What is that? And then those four sub-aspects of it going horizontally: reflexive thinking, perspective, multidimensionality, and synthesis. So to get started with holism, what are we referring to when we talk about a holistic perspective? This is principle number one. So holism refers to an approach that emphasizes the whole and always tries to think of things or understand things in the context of the broader context they form part of. So it's seeing the forest and then seeing how the trees fit into that forest. What all holistic approaches have in common include the principle that the whole has priority over its parts, and the assumption that properties of the parts cannot be explained by the properties of parts, that the whole cannot be described simply by the properties of the parts. We can't take some complex phenomena and simply give a list of all the parts, and then that's going to describe the whole, and that's actually quite often what we do. And that's called reductionism. The idea here is that actually we need to take a look at the whole in and of itself and give some description of that, some view of that, and then we can start talking about the parts. So in this paradigm, the ultimate source of knowledge are seen to derive not from elementary components, but with reference to the broader context, the broader environment. It is a paradigm shift. It is a way of looking at the world. It's a very powerful one, an important one when you're dealing with complexity. We can't directly affect things. We can't fully understand something in and of itself because it's so interconnected and interdependent with its environment. We need to take this more holistic perspective, holistic view to think about, see that broader context, and then we can start working with that and change it. So given that something can only be properly understood within its context, to gain a full understanding, something requires gaining a greater understanding of the environment or the broader context that it exists in. And this, again, is just contrasting those two modes of reasoning, and Bob used the analytical one, reducing down to focus on parts, and the synthetic one expands outwards from the perceived issue to understand the structure of the system and the overall paradigm, then influences the parts and connections in the broader network to change the system. So it's working with context, it's seeing context and then learning how to work with context instead of narrowing down to change, to understand and change the individual parts. And that's holism. It's about stepping back. It's about seeing that broader context. It's about understanding the parts in relation to the whole.